Greetings, dear audience. Welcome to another episode of the CENJOWS podcast series. I'm your host, Webhavi Katal, a research assistant at CENJOWS. Today, our topic for deliberation is India-China relations, navigating rivalry, borders, and interdependence. And for the same, my today's guest is Mr. Neeraj Singh Manhas. Mr. Manhas serves as the Special Advisor for South Asia at the Parley Policy Initiative in the Republic of Korea and is the subject matter expert at CENJOWS. He is also a non-resident visiting senior scholar at the Center for National Security Studies and an editorial board member for World Water Policy, a journal published by Wiley. Mr. Manhas previously served as the Director of Research at the Indo-Pacific Consortium at Raisina House, New Delhi. He has also written and edited 6 books, and his research interests includes India-China border issues, transboundary rivers, water security in South Asia, climate security, and defense studies. His expertise has been recognized by prominent international media outlets such as the Financial Times UK, BBC World Service London, Al Qaeda News Egypt, ABC Australian Broadcasting, and Taiwan Plus News. It's an honor to have you with us, sir.
Thank you, Webhavi, and looking forward to this conversation, and compliments to CENJOWS for starting this podcast series. And I'm very happy that with this new initiative, new ideas would emerge, and it will definitely give new insights to the audience also. And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Indeed, thank you. So so I remember when I started studying about India-China, I observed that there was this loop of cooperation and conflict. For example, when we signed the Panchsheel Agreement with them in 1954, immediately 2 years later, the unthinkable happened. Both opened fire across each other's borders, and we still had skirmishes. And even in 2003, when Atalji went to China, he proposed the creation of special representatives to address the border issues, but still there have been so many skirmishes. So do you believe that we are tied in the loop of cooperation and conflict with China?
Okay. So it's a very interesting question, and just to start our conversation, I believe that this should be the first question to ask, because when we talk about India-China relation, we need to connect it with the historical background,
Right.
because everything is connected with its past and with its history also. And starting from the 1962 war onwards, we have seen that both the countries, how they have emerged together. Initially in the 1980s or 90s, we could see that China was struggling to get its economy balanced in the
Right.
mainstream of the world, and specifically in the Asia also. And India was still reviving because we got independence in 1947, and we were hoping that we were focusing on 5-year plan. Our focus was that, because we were the world largest populated country at that point of a time also, and we were emerging, and China was again the same case only. So in the Asia per se, when these two countries are there, both of the countries talk about their own economy, their population, because their growing needs are more and more. And from 1962 onwards, we are seeing that after that trust break, which we had in 1962 war, because we wanted to have a very good relation with the China, and we were the first country to officially give them a association that you're formally a country. When they had separated from Taiwan, and one China thing came into the picture. So, but then we saw that China is strategically thinking very differently from India's point of view, and we were on the non-alignment side, and our foreign policy was not very much widened. It was very narrowed at that point of time, because we were still exploring new options, new friends into the picture, and the neighbors also. And from that time onwards, we decided that we will try to progress our country economically, in development wise, but we will not try to have a that kind of will not able to build that kind of a trust with China.
Right.
So that trust deficit started from that point onwards only, and from that point till 2020, which was a fresh border standoff between India-China, which is the Galwan Valley, and before that also in 2017 also, when Doklam issue happened. So in that also we have seen that China was not ready to leave the space, although this area is not demarcated. So you cannot say that this is our area, and you cannot try to unilaterally say that we just want to be, this is our area and we want to take it up. So I believe that both the countries are have a hostile hostility since 62, but they try to cooperate also at points, because look at the organizations like BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Group.
Yeah.
So these are some of the groups where when they want, they cooperate also. But look at their trade also. I think in 2025 we have crossed more than $155 billion of trade between India and China. So one way we are having a good bilateral ties also, where we are very much dependent on them. Second way, we are organizational wise, we are also collaborating with them on BRICS, SU. But on the border issues still, there is a lot of competition, because there we are thinking strategically.
Right.
So I believe when they want to cooperate, they cooperate, but when it comes for a strategic point of view, they will always try to have their own opinions. And we also need to see that in the Asia, they are the big countries. They want to showcase their how much powerful they can be, and that's how the whole world order is moving ahead, that which country is going to lead the Asia, and which country is going to dominate the world. So that's how the whole geopolitical rivalry comes into the action. And I believe it's a very tough question at the moment still, since 2020 till now 2026, a lot of new developments have happened. So I would see it's a pathway for both cooperation also, but anytime a conflict can also may arise.
Yeah, indeed. And China is very strategic with their interests, so it really depends on them what they want to do, whether they want to cooperate or they want to go for a conflict.
Right.
So since you mentioned territorial dispute, to what extent are the unresolved territorial disputes the central anchor in this cycle? Are they the main cause of the recurring tensions, or just one aspect of a bigger picture?
Well, I see this as just a sparkling point. Although this is a kind of a tension which is very much tangible and very much visible to all of us, right? Because these are the border tensions, and we know that on the western, central or the eastern front, these are the issues which has been there with India China for a very, very long time. And I just stated that our relation have started with a lot of mistrust.
Right.
And just with this trust and mistrust, there is a lot of silver lining in between these two words, right? And I have been seeing that because of this border issue, because it's been very much visible, we are just able to do whatever, we are just able to solve the border issues only, because we started up when this 2020 Galwan Valley border standoff happened, and with that point we started up with a core commander level meetings, so that both India China military people can, commander level people can meet, so they can talk about their issues, how they can resolve the issue. So I believe that back in 2024 October, both the countries finally disengaged on the border issue, that this is our area, and specifically on Demchok and Depsang. These are the two specific hotspots where the border standoff was taking place in the Western theatre. So, and since then both the military were taken back from China's end also, from India's end also, and from that point onwards we started seeing that the political relation between India and China also started taking a new start. Both the country leaders started meeting each other, the foreign ministers, Wang Yi, Jai Shankar, they started meeting on different several occasions. And I believe that's the pathway which we set, I think in 2024 October onwards, and in 25 we started off having a new dialogue, new conversation with China, that how just not about the border issues, but there are different other aspects also, because I mentioned this is just a visible thing which is visible to us, but there are many hidden the areas which actually needs to be resolved. For example, I'll highlight about, because our growing presence in Quad, which China doesn't like it, with China's BRI projects, with China's CPEC project, which is going through our Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So all of these issues, actually highlight a lot of issues, and because we also want to explore our options.
Yeah.
We also want to economically sound, and nobody country wants to have a direct war. So with this kind of a solution, I believe both the countries are also very much cautious that one bad step of their direct confrontation can lead to a economic loss.
True.
So that is how I believe that this is just a visible thing which is very much tangible, but also there are very much hidden agendas which needs to be solved between India China, because lastly this year onwards, or the last year also, we started talking about our reopening of flights between India China, which
Right.
was long halted since 2020. The second issue was because we Indians are very much religious, spiritual in nature, and our Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, which used to go from Kailash Tibetan route only, which also started up again, because this was opening up a new path for between two countries, how they can open up a new goals for the friendship, or they can revive their friendship. Then there was an issue between rivers also, which we'll subsequently
Yeah.
talk about it. So these are some of the issues which was started taking a fresh leap, but I would still, both the countries are also very much cautious when
Right.
it comes to the border disengagement. Still I would say at the border infrastructure, I mean, God knows what will happen in the next minute. So I believe both the countries are very much cautious. Border issue is just not the issue. There are so many multiple factors which are involved here. But at the same end, I have been saying this, we want to have a trade with them, we want to have a disengagement with them, but we cannot leave them. So
True.
that's sort of a interdependability which we have created over the years. But the time will only tell what exactly is there in the future.
Right. And like even now when the West is caught up in the war, so everyone's looking towards East, so it's good for us and we should cooperate. But again, I think that's very correct what you said, that both countries are very cautious of how much they want things to go out of hand and how much to keep things in hand.
Right.
So that's about it. And now after the broader standoff like the ones in Galwan and Doklam that you mentioned, do you see a shift in towards a more permanent militarization along the LAC, or is there still space for confidence building and de-escalation?
Definitely rightly said, because I see a very little gap of confidence building measure, because confidence building measure only happens when when two countries people are cooperating with each other, whether with the military, whether with the civil military fusion also. So there needs to be some scope left. So I believe there is a little scope, because last year only, as I highlighted, that Kailash Mansarovar Yatra started. Now I think 2 days back only we started up with the I think Chinese airline only, they have taken up an initiative that they are going to have a direct flight from Beijing to New Delhi. Earlier, last year it was from different province to where we can get inside China from Kolkata to Guangzhou. There is a one province we can get a direct flight. But now they are talking about Beijing to New Delhi. So this is again a new fresh. But there is also so many issues which are not being resolved. Like I mentioned about MOUs, which are basically the soft laws in terms of international law, which we call, which both the countries have signed long time back, just for the renewal of the things, because this is all happens due to the political things, which is also been believed and seen with the other countries also. When our political connections and the relations are very much stable, so we are tend to have a good bilateral relations, right? So with the MOU question, I still believe there is from 2023 onwards, there are a lot of MOUs which are needs to be renewed. So still, I think on the sidelines of BRICS, I believe that both the countries will come together, and so that is how I talk about that. Still there is a still hope for a little confidence building measure which can be dealt, but with a caution again, because our mainly the focus and the trust which has started from 1962 onwards, which started with the mistrust. So, and China's expansionist policy, how they also want to take Arunachal also, they want to take Galwan also, they want to take Tibet also. So world is well aware of their case. So we cannot trust them.
True.
So that sort of a thing I believe. And specifically, you asked me about the border infrastructure also. I've seen a massive, tremendous infrastructure, which is happening on both the sides of.
True.
And after 2020, both the countries started developing their airports, their roads, connectivity, bridges, lot many military deployment, weaponry system was deployed, and specifically on the Chinese side, because on Chinese side, from the satellite imagery, we could see that a lot of artificial villages were established, which is known as Shiokang, like the typical Tibetan people, like on the Chinese side, they were recruited as military soldiers in PLA, and they were stationed there. Like in case of any kind of a war, like direct confrontation with India, they can directly jump to the war. Bullet train, rail connectivity. So I would say both India, China have developed their borders, and still at this moment also, when we are having this podcast, there is a lot of activities which is happening there. But we talk about disengagement at the borders, but I still believe anything can happen in the next minute.
Right.
But both the countries have been very cautious about it. But seeing our India's record, we have a good war situational handling experience. We have been experienced with Pakistan, with China, although it was a learning lesson for us. But China, look at China, since I think very, very long time, their soldiers have not experienced any kind of a war, any direct military confrontation. So I think we are at a good point where we can disengage them at border issues.
Right, and even I read this somewhere that like us as an ancient civilization, we've never invaded someone, we've always defended our borders, so we are very good at that.
Right.
So my next question is including Russia now. So how does Russia fit into the India-China dynamics, especially now that we have reloads in the place, and they are a long-standing defense partner for us? So does Moscow act as a balancing factor, or is it keeping itself away from choosing or taking sides when it comes to India and China?
Well, Russia, I like Russia because it's an old friend to us, and in the foreign policy, we talk about that, there is no permanent friends or enemies, but I believe there is a permanent friend here, and that is Russia. And I personally, visited Moscow twice, and the kind of a people they're very friendly, and whenever they see Indian people, they feel very much energetic, and the kind of a solidarity they show to us. I was very much happy to see the Russian support in each point of time to India, and just not for me personal experience, but with the India as per se. And I believe that Russia is playing a very practical role here, but not taking sides at the moment, because China is there in the picture at the moment. Because when we are talking about the border issue between India China, Russia is not taking a side of China, but also not supporting India in that context, because they want to leave that question to ourselves, and that's an equal thing, because it is our personal problem. I think we are good at this point. We are very good at good stage of our experimenting and getting a good exposure in the foreign policy, that we can take our own stand. Our foreign policy has expanded that much in a very good way. So I believe that Russia is trying to have a very balanced approach here, and with this new Relos agreement also, which was I think signed in February only. So this gives a very good experience and exposure to our Indian people also, Indian military also, because we'll have a direct exchange of thoughts, or exchange of the military to military people. We can directly exchange our military people to their port. We can refuel our people, we can sail through, because now Russia is focusing more on Arctic in the Indo-Pacific, and they are supporting us. Our scientists are going to Russia, and that's how they are working with the Russian scientists also. So they are supporting us on all the logistical part. So I believe that way Russia is trying to help us also. But with the China's question coming to the way, I believe that because they have been very cautious, because they don't want to lose either with China or India also.
Yeah.
Equally, we both are friend to them. But with the trioca of Russia, India, and China, which is often known as RIC, they also know that Russia needs equally the Asia's two global power countries in the long term, because Russia is left alone at the
Yeah.
moment, and they are fighting for their own solidarity, for their own sovereignty with the US. So that's how I believe Russia is trying to maintain that balance. But equally, I believe uh, Russia has been a very good partner to us in terms of defense also. We are exporting a lot of defense weaponry system, and our most of the weaponry part are dependent on them. So I believe Russia is not a kind of a problematic to us. They are equally good friend to us, but we will just have to try to make balance with the China, and I think Russia is playing a good role here. But as BRICS presidency is there in India, with India into 2026, I believe that there would be a lot of side talks with China
Definitely.
also, with the Russia also, and we are hoping that whatever the issues which are there with the China, which we were not able to resolve, this is the only time where we could at least try to come at some consensus, if not fully, some consensus, and which would make it our future more brighter in that.
Yeah, definitely. The presidency is something to look forward to, because it's very essential for the East to counter West now. So you never know if the countries come together.
Right.
So coming to my last question, do you see water security, especially the upstream and dam building, as a potential new arena in this entire conflict cooperation loop?
Okay, so I believe that, because that's a new kind of a warfare which is going to take the whole geopolitics into a new course of action, and this is not again a new, but not very much highlighted in the past decade. I believe why it's been highlighted now, because China's new dam project, which is been started at Medong County again, which is very much close to the Arunachal Pradesh, approximately of 120 kilometers. So this is very much near to the LAC, and when anything which is near to our LAC, we have to be very much suspicious.
Yeah.
And although, as I said, with the mistrust, we cannot take any kind of a lose end anywhere in the game. So and when they started constructing this dam earlier, I think last year in July onwards, now still it is there in the construction way, and this would end in 2030s onwards. So this is going to be a world largest dam. So already China is already having a world largest dam on the Yangtze River, which is known as the Three Gorges Dam. So this is going to supersede the Three Gorges Dam, and this would create 60 megawatt of electricity, which would be 3x from the last dam which is there on the Yangtze River. So why it is kind of a new warfare? Because we need to see that most of the rivers which within the India are actually originating from the Tibetan plateau.
Yeah.
And when the rivers are coming from the upper high altitude to the lower altitude, of course anyone who is there on the lower altitude will have a disadvantage, and when you are at a disadvantage, you will have to be very much ready for the situation. If anything happens from the upper end and lower end, we need to be ready. And this is just not a speculation. This has happened in the past also. There are so many examples to give. In 2017, 20, lot many things happened in the war, into the water. Like the water turned grey, water was suddenly released. There was a lot of flood-like situation in specifically in Assam, in Arunachal also, because the river Yarlang Sangpo, which is known as Siang, when it turns enter inside to Arunachal, and then from Arunachal when it enters to Assam, it is known as Brahmaputra. So this river was started getting a flood like situation in these region, northeastern region, and people have no option to do what exactly. There was no data which was shared by the China, which is also known as the upper riparian. So how can you build that trust? So if you're not sharing the live real-time hydrological data, how do you expect that the transparency or the trust will be built?
True.
So as a big brother, if you're thinking that, with the upper riparian country, you need to maintain that kind of a trust. And trust me, I was there in Bangkok, we had a great chat with the Chinese expert, but I believe that we Indians are very much, very much energetic, very much expressive in highlighting our problem, but Chinese, they were very much peacefully listening to us. They had no words to say. I mean, we are telling them that these are the issues, we need to renew our MOU, we need to do a lot of things, this and that, but their point of view was still no expression on their face. So how do you expect this to be, one? And then the moment this dam would come, definitely this would add a new dimension of national security threat to our own country. So we need to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And we just not to be ready for just in by saying that we will do this. We are actually doing a lot of things in the northeastern state. We are trying to build it infrastructurally wise also, because as it's our eastern sector also, border infrastructure is always there into the mindset of foreign policy, but also with the non-traditional security aspect also, we are trying to highlight that how we can also develop our water infrastructure.
Yes.
So when we talk about water infrastructure, I'm talking about a lot of dams, reservoirs. So just now, just not in a way that what China is doing on the upper Ripon. This is for our own safety.
Yeah.
If the sudden release of water happens, we can store it, we can utilize it for our own electricity, because our course of action would also be on renewable source of energy. We have to leave the dependency on the coal, and we also want to by 2060, by 2070, we want to get away with the coal dependency. So that's how our renewable source of energy is also going to come from the hydropower, because this is the most solid way of generating the energy and the electricity. And that too, with the development of northeastern, this will add a new layer of development to them also.
Right.
And this is just not just to counterbalance them, this is also act as a buffer zone between India and China. We need to be ready for it. We are actually working on it, and there would be new sort of a new dimensions which would uncover in the 15 5-year plan also. Although I was very much shocked just reading 15 5-year plan, and just on their third and the fourth paragraph, it's written that they are going to complete this dam by 2030s. So estimated time is not written, but that's how they have written, because huge amount of money is going to spend on this, $167 billion. I don't know how they are going to get this money, but Chinese are best at their skills, and with the hydrological thing, we'll have to be very, very aware, and this is going to be taking a new course of action in the warfare. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, and indeed, like weaponization of water is becoming a new front. So water security is very imperative focus for all the foreign policies now. So that's about it. It was really great to have you here and talk about India and China. I hope you enjoyed equally participating with us.
Yeah, definitely. It was a nice, the way the questions have been framed. I really like that, and I hope that with the coming future time, new developments would take place. And definitely, we are hoping for a cooperation, not in terms of conflict, because we believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and that's our vision. And just not about me as in the whole countries. We are aiming and hoping for the cooperation for the long term.
Right. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to all the audience for staying till the end. Do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Thank you.